This is PopHealth Week streaming live on Healthcare Now Radio. I'm Gregg Masters, your co-host and executive producer. Flying solo today, Fred is away. PopHealth Week is your go-to platform for peer-to-peer conversation with industry leaders, innovators, and ecosystem stakeholders, including payers, providers, patient vendors, and the regulatory communities. We come together to swap the best ideas and strategies in population health management. Connect with us via www.popupstudio.productions or drop me a direct message on Twitter via @GreggMastersMPH, and that's Greg with 2Gs. Reach Fred direct via Twitter @FSGoldstein or www.accountablehealthllc.com. On this episode, we are in the company of seasoned entrepreneur, thinker, leader, mentor, advisor, and investor, Tatyana Kanzaveli, founder and CEO of OpenHealth Network. Tatyana has held senior executive roles in large enterprises and startups. She has experience in both B2B and B2C ventures. She was featured on the White House Science and Technology blog, launched OpenHealth Network at the first White House Demo Day, spoke at the United Nations, many international and U.S. conferences, and is recognized as one of the top influential women in health IT. She is a TEDx speaker, strategic advisor on AI and generative AI innovation, and a chess master. So, Tatyana, let's get started. So welcome to Pop Health Week. Glad you could join us. I know these are challenging times for many of us, but let's start with you sharing a little bit about your background and what's inspired you to focus on AI in healthcare.
First of all, thank you, Greg, for inviting me into the show. It's always an honor. I have, very simple background. So computer science, AI, and interestingly enough, the thesis for my PhD was using AI in oil and gas industry back then. Nothing new. People think, things are super new, but so I went through a lot of waves of AI, being cool, super cool, very bad. I worked for the startup that I actually sold that was in AI space that used integrated machine learning, natural language processing, and case-based reasoning for troubleshooting and in customer service support space. And it was a while back, right? And everything was cool. I was doing all those amazing things. And then I was diagnosed with cancer. And I felt so bad and so unfair. Why did it happen to me? And then I was pretty depressed back then. It was totally unexpected because I was super healthy. And when I kind of recovered from the shock and depression, I started thinking about why did it happen to me? And the response I got from very well-known oncologist was, you're just so lucky because with the genetic test, so it wasn't genetic, and we couldn't pinpoint anything that could have led for me having, this colon cancer. And at that time, I came up with this thought that if we use 360 degrees of variety of data points, we might be able to find some patterns that can help us to get inside of complex and chronic diseases such as cancer. And at that time, even before my cancer surgery, I started a company, and the name was Open Cancer Network. And we, with my co-founder that I found back then, we created a diagram where we had all the potential data points that can impact anything related to health. And that included environmental, genetics, all the data we could collect from sensors, devices, lifestyle, everything, 360 degrees. And I went and I met with a lot of people, and I explained that that's where I see we need to go in healthcare. And we were laughed at back then. No one was talking about data in healthcare. But because I knew that's how it's supposed to happen, I didn't give up. So we pivoted a number of times. We had to build a lot of tools that will enable us to collect massive amounts of data that otherwise not available in the HR or elsewhere. So we changed the company name, but even after that, we pivoted a number of times. And at the end of the day, we do have a framework that enables us to get to where we wanted to be from day one, before it became a mainstream. And that's basically how I ended up being in healthcare, for good or bad.
So just for clarification, maybe for the audience benefit, are we talking pre-social media, just beginning of the web, maybe AOL? I mean, what time frame are we talking about in terms of building?
2013.
2013. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's post-Twitter. It's 5 years, whatever, into the social media revolution, so to speak. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And at that time, I was, tweeting things that were quite controversial back then. You remember IBM Watson and all that healthcare stuff. And I said, I don't mind to be treated by Watson. People like, what? I was like, from my point of view, it's all data driven, and it's impossible by human to analyze all this massive amounts of data, compare, build predictive modeling. So at that time, I was tweeting about it, and people were like, what? Now it's, a little bit more mainstream than it was back then.
Yeah. Yeah, a little more, but still we're lagging. We're legacy.
At least we're talking about things. Right. We're not doing them yet, but
we are talking about things. So, wow, you go back to AI in terms of your PhD, your doctoral thesis on oil and gas. That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. But so let's talk about where between then, let's say 2013 and today, there's been quite a bit of technological progress. The platforms have evolved in some cases, perhaps exponentially in terms of their sophistication. All we hear today is data, analytics, cloud. I mean, you name it. And now AI. So what's your thinking contrasted to Open Cancer, the initiative or the impetus to go in that direction, and what you're seeing today? I know you've given several talks recently about AI in healthcare. So what's out there that, kind of looks promising to you right now, and why?
Yeah, and I think, looking back, we were like way ahead of time talking about healthcare and data and AI back then. And now it's pretty timely. And I'm very pleased to see all the major players focusing on healthcare and data. That's great, because we will all benefit from that. When I'm talking about, Gen AI in healthcare and outside of healthcare, I think one of the keywords that we need to keep in mind is hyper-personalization. Everything that you can think about can be enabled by using the recent developments in Gen AI and AI, right? So if you start questioning things and try to reimagine them, which is hard because, we're humans, everything based on past experiences. But with the technologies that we have now, we can reimagine things, re-engineer processes, and deploy those technologies in a meaningful way to get to where we want to be, specifically in healthcare. And we can look at, baseline, right? Basically things that we were born with, your genetics, right? And there are a lot of, progress has been done with deploying sophisticated AI algorithms on genetic level. But imagine that you can pretty much look at the genetics, compare, and build from day 0, 1 of the birth of the person, probability of developing certain conditions, right? And then you will use AI and data that can be collected from sensors, devices, socioeconomics, everything in between, preferably in non-invasive way, and monitor and compare with genetics, predictive modeling, and then tailor interventions that can prevent certain things from happening or control and manage them in highly precision, personalized manner, right? I question everything, but that's me, right? Because I question if you get headache and I get headache, we go and get ibuprofen, right? 2 pills, the same, like you go to CVS. And I'm questioning that. Maybe I need just a half of it. Maybe you need 3. But it's easy to manufacture certain dosage. It's easier just to say one size fits all, right? But now if you rethink and say, oh, your genetics and my genetics different, your environment, my lifestyle, my stressors and everything. And for you in the context and where you are, you will need this formulation of whatever that will be helpful versus me. And I think that's super exciting, probably doable, and probably that's where we will go in the long run.
Okay. So obviously the tech is qualitatively different today, better, superior, more powerful. So when you say hyper personalization, is that differentiated from sort of this mass personalization because we can really get granular now with all these sensor data entry inputs, whether it's the phone, Apple Watch, Fitbit, whatever. There's so much, consumer generated data out there. How does this tsunami really get sucked up and perhaps with an AI layer translated into something meaningful that can be ingested by the delivery system in such a way to make it the right care at the right time for the right patient? That's the HIMSS banner of 5-6 years ago of one of their annual conferences. It was aspirational then. I think it's still aspirational today. But from where you sit, is it this, there was this mass personalization, but you referred to it as hyper personalization. Is there a difference?
Yeah, because I think based on what I'm seeing, we talk about personalization, but it's not actually happening as much as we want to. So I want to Mayo Clinic AI Summit, and there were presentations on using, for example, Gen AI integrated within the HR to draft responses to people, messages, right? Great. That will save tons of time, potentially, be more personalized. But realistically, we're not looking at the person behind the message still. So we're on the right track. We're automating. However, you might have personality where you like certain way of me communicating with you, right? And the other person might be very different in terms of details, how you explain, even if it's a text message. So we're not going to that level at this stage. We say it's personalized. It's not there yet. It's not, personalized in the way where we would like to see, I would like to see it.
Yeah, I think maybe as a sidebar, we were talking before we went on air is that how this gets all this data, this tsunami of data, how does it get integrated, organized, and then presented in the fashion that you prefer, whether, whatever that looks like, and then really used not just by you, but it's appropriately process workflow wise on the delivery system side, such that the care team can reach out and engage with you in such a way that's appropriate to the signal you've provided in terms of whatever it is you're reporting, either passively through sensors or proactively through a phone call or other type of notice, if you will, to the delivery system.
Yeah, you nailed it. I think it's important to engage with me at the right time with the right messaging via the right channels that I'll be more responsive to. For some people, like I prefer everything online, right? Some people still prefer to talk or even go and see a physician. I try to avoid it. If I can do it online, I'm perfectly fine. But what I'm saying is, it's not like one size fits all. We can develop highly sophisticated Gen AI based chatbots, but some people just don't want to communicate with chatbot. And it's all about giving an option and then personalize my experiences based on my preferences, if you will, right? That's not necessarily happening yet, though we have all the tools, we have all the ways of analyzing everything and make that way. The other thing that you mentioned that's not trivial is once you get all that data, and we have deployments, for example, very complex care at home, sleep study at home, with underserved people and underserved communities, and we're getting continuous streams of data, tens of thousands data points a day for every patient, from consumer grade devices, clinical grade devices, sensors that take air quality, noise level. So we had to design a data lake where we can correlate all these data streams and then analyze it in a way where we can find certain patterns and build, predictive modeling and everything else.
For those just joining us, we are in the company of seasoned entrepreneur, thinker, leader, mentor, advisor, and investor, Tatyana Kanzaveli, founder and CEO of OpenHealth Network and TEDx Bay Area organizer. We're talking AI uptake in the healthcare industry. Stay tuned for the rest of the story. So this idea of a data lake, so that would be a layer somewhere in the continuum would be what? Is this third-party solution? Is this an integration at the I don't know, at the EHR? How do you
No, EHR doesn't have database for this. It's not built for that. There's no placeholders for that. Mm-hmm. And it's not fine-tuned for massive storage of massive multidimensional data sets. So you're talking about, different place where you develop and host data lake. And again, it has to be highly protected because you have potentially sensitive data. It can pull data from EHR, obviously from claims. There are many data sources that can pull, but also, all those streams of data, like I mentioned, we have data from Actigraph, from Apple Health, from Fitbit, from air quality measurement devices, and all of that, right? It's not, you need to clean it, normalize, put in a special, specially designed database that will give you ability to analyze. Otherwise, why do you need all that data?
Right.
And it's not the HR.
So yeah, a lot of those are pretty calcified, even with all the so-called interoperability that we've been talking about for quite a while. Really, we're actually running out of time, unfortunately. It's a prime subject. There are a lot of places to go, and you're a rich target to provide some of those insights. What can you share that how AI is currently being used, perhaps integrated at the health system level, whether it's a physician enterprise or hospital, to streamline workflow processes? And can you cite one or more examples or case studies where they're showing results?
I think, the obvious ones that everyone went after, because they're like easy targets, were, scribing So when you go and you meet with your physician, they don't have to sit and type everything, and AI just take notes. And so that's pretty wide use case that have been adopted
You're saying
by
scribing, right?
yeah, yep,
That's
yep,
a whole
yeah,
new
scribing.
profession now, scribes. Yeah.
Scribes, right? So that's kind of automated with AI.
Yes. Okay.
And as I mentioned, there are a lot of healthcare systems that integrating automated drafting of responses to patients' notes. So that's happening. But to me, those are kind of niche authoring that happening here and there. They're not necessarily highly personalized. And I think in the future, there might be scenarios when there will be new systems that will be built on AI foundation. So not the patches to something that has not been built in AI friendly way. I don't exclude that. It's hard to imagine there will be anything that will compete with epics of the world, but I think we might actually see that happening. I also feel that AI will enable us to get another dimension of care that is very important to improve outcomes, such as behavioral and mental.
Right,
But
which
if
is
you look at all the things that's happening, we don't see outcomes necessarily where we want them to be for a variety of different reasons. But I think for complex and chronic diseases, integrating the whole behavioral aspect of care into care plans that highly personalized will be key to us succeeding in managing those.
Yeah, I get these little Apple Watch nudges about mindful moments and pausing and reflecting and things like that. And when I heard about, this were adaptations to make this consumer engagement into healthy choices more meaningful, I thought it was kind of corny. But actually, it's those little simple nudges that can actually make a pretty good difference. But let me ask you, where do you see the lowest hanging fruit here, and who are the likely sources of uptake? Where do you see that happening? First,
as I mentioned, like the use cases earlier, those are like low hanging fruits, and
mental health,
and it's like you still have a person who reviews and kind of validates. A lot of stuff is going on in imaging. That actually was the first area where AI was successfully deployed, and we see more and more research in published papers where imaging, AI and imaging doing as well and better on detecting certain things. Yeah, doesn't have bad days, doesn't get tired, right? So a lot of human type of errors. And genetics, I mean, it's super cool what's happening in AI and genetics. But at some point, I see all those things starting like handshaking in the continuous kind of highly personalized precision care that we'll talk about. And I still kind of believe that when we will be able to redesign, reimagine processes and start deploying overall, kind of changes that will lead us to improved care, we will hopefully see good outcomes. But so far, lots of investments, not too many results.
Right. Still early in the game.
Right.
In this world, we focus on data and observable events. So we're starting to build that timeline. Eventually, we'll be able to look back and say, yeah, this works or it doesn't. But other than radiology imaging, pretty low hanging fruit and AI, you touched on this workflow process improvement. Why, for instance, is someone totally wired in an inpatient setting or even hospital at home, so to speak, with sensors monitoring vitals and this and that. Why isn't there some robotic capability to basically say, alert, this person is crashing, or you know what, there are signs here that this person is about to crash, and then alerts the care team to intervene? Shouldn't that be standard of care in the ICU setting?
It should be, and it's easy. I mean, it's doable with everything we have today. As I told you, we deploy so many care at home and remote patient monitoring stuff. We have all that data. We can definitely build all those alerts, but you have healthcare system that's not built organizationally, structurally, processes-wise to react. And then because of the liability issues, what if there is a signal and it's documented signal and no one was able to react because it came, in the middle of the night? So you have data, you have signals, but you need to build all those processes on, triage, like all of them, on who, how, and will react to what signal 24/7, which, and how you'll build all of that. So technologically, it's all doable.
Yeah. If anything could breathe life in the whole upside or the conceptual upside of precision medicine, it's certainly AI, because we're talking massive database integration and learning. I mean, I just would like to see that here now, to improve the quality of care, move the needle on that triple aim, perhaps the quadruple aim, and even improve workflow life for docs that they don't hate going to work anymore. I mean, it's we got a problem here, and maybe I don't know. Like I mentioned to you, I personally going to leave. I'm suffering from battle fatigue since the mid '80s, trying to move the needle here on innovation. I'm kind of. I'll talk to people like you, young with energy to want to make a difference, but I don't know. I'm kind of giving up. Being in
Don't give up. Don't not give up.
Okay.
I know we're like the same people talking about the same things for many years, and things are not happening, at least not with the speed that we want them to happen. But I'm still kind of positive. And the reality is it has to happen. So we can't give up because it's a difficult industry with lots of limitations. So we have to move forward.
And there you have it, folks. That's a wrap for today's broadcast. We want to extend appreciation to our worldwide listeners for tuning in, and our gratitude to Tatyana Kanzaveli, the founder and CEO of OpenHealth Network and TEDx Bay Area organizer. Do follow Tatyana's work on the web via www.openhealth.cc, or on Twitter via @GLFCEO, or on LinkedIn @IN/T Kanzaveli. If you find our work at PopHealth Week engaging, please show your support. Give us a thumbs up on your favorite podcast platform, share it with your colleagues, and do subscribe to ensure you don't miss out on future episodes. Remember, we're live on Healthcare Now Radio weekdays at 5:30 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And for our friends on the West Coast, that's 2:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m., and 6:30 p.m. Pacific. From all of us at PopHealth Week, Fred Goldstein, and yours truly, Gregg Masters, we urge you to stay safe and stay tuned. Until next time, fare thee well.